YouTube broadcast is about to kick in right now, and so this will be a call to order and introductions. And I guess I will kick this off, call the meeting to order, and step through. I'll just read through the participants that are on the call as they're listed in the participant list on the right. Hinsu, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Hinsu No at PAC, the modern manager.
Caroline?
Caroline from PAC.
Eric?
Eric Kramer, PAG.
And I have
Land use modeler.
Thank you, Eric. We have Dylan Perry.
Dylan Perry, Town of Sahuarita.
It's good to hear you. We have George Hammond.
Hi, George Hammond, Director of the Economic and Business Research Center in the Eller College of Management at the University of Arizona.
Great, thanks, George. It's good to see you. Sorry, I forgot I didn't have my video on. Julie.
Julie Jamarta with PAG.
Great. And we have Mark.
Hi, Mark Holden, Principal Planner with Pima County Planning.
It's good to see you, Mark. We have Malini.
Hi, Malini Sims, Principal Planner with the Town of Oro Valley.
Great, thanks. We have Steve.
Hi, Steve Cheslock, Town of Marana, Principal Planner.
Great, glad you could join us. Tara?
Hi, I'm Tara Salomon from the State Demographer's Office.
Great, thanks for joining us. And Yoon-Mi?
I'm Yoon-Mi Jang, the PAC.
Great, thank you. And it looks like we have Sandy with us. Sandy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Sandy Holland with Tucson Electric Power.
Hi.
Are you parachuting right now?
I wish.
Right. Thanks for joining us. All right. With the call to order wrapped up, we can proceed to
Josh.
Did I miss anyone?
Yes,
Okay.
Mirella.
Okay, great. Thanks for catching that. Mirella?
Yes, hi. Mirella Hermatka with Pima County Wastewater.
Great. Thanks for joining us. All right. With that, let's proceed to the next slide, please. So in in-kind form, regional planning efforts are enhanced by recording time donated by attendees, volunteers, and participants. PAG collects data on the time dedicated to meetings and activities to apply for use as matching funds for grants and federal dollars. If you're paid with federal dollars, please let us know. Time spent in preparation for this meeting will be estimated by PAG staff who are knowledgeable of the agenda and meeting materials. At the conclusion of this meeting, the session report will automatically calculate your time spent in this meeting. Time spent working on PAG RTA initiatives, programs, and specialty projects may also be eligible for consideration for matching funds. So we'll take care of that. And it does not look like we have quorum right now. So we're not going to be able to move on this recommended action of approving the November 30th, 2020 meeting summary. So we should then move ahead to the next slide. Item 4 on the agenda is a discussion of the Census 2020 redistricting data and census differential privacy disclosure avoidance system. So Hinsu and Caroline, do you want to kick this off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I
Thank you.
will show my screen first. Let me see. Let me double check. Okay, move some stuff here. Okay. Good afternoon, public members and friends, and thank you so much for your attendance. And today we have some interesting presentations, and including Census 2020, differential privacy, which will be presented by Caroline and me. And after this presentation, Eric Kramer and Yoon-Mi Jang will talk about regional development trend analysis, which is a part of our recent effort to improve PAC's land use model. The Census 2020 redistricting data PL 94171 and Census differential privacy disclosure avoidance system. So maybe here is the overview, and we'll talk about just the first the background of the census, this annual census, then just quickly over and the Census 2020 response rate and the county and jurisdictional statistics. Then some issues we found from the Census 2020, we will talk about that. Then just further in the future timeline and regarding just the census, and as well as just the product items. So here's the background. In the United States Census Bureau released the 2020 Public Law 94-171 redistricting data, which was enacted by Congress in December 1975 in order to conduct the legislative redistricting, which requires the Census Bureau to create a tabulation of population to each state, including small areas. So mainly we will talk about the summary files, which include race, population, and occupancy status. You can also find the resources from Census website as well as just AOEO website. So our just the main portion and of the summary statistics is based on just the AOEO in the website summary. So here first, in the Census 2020 response rate, in the national self-response rate is around 67%. And in 2020, in the state and the county, you see here just a 64% state, and the Pima County is roughly around 68%, around like a 55% actually came from just the internet. Comparing to 2010 and self-response rate, you see around like a 3% increase in state level, then the county level, and increase around is a little less than 2%. So here's the county and the state statistics for the total population. You can see on here is on the right side, and see in the state level population change since 2010, and which was 6.4 million population. Now it shows 7.2 million, which is roughly around the 760,000 just the population growth since 2010. And on the other hand, I'm sorry, just the major contributions just made by and the Maricopa County. You see that 3.8 million population in 2010 and 4.4 million population in 2020. Roughly just 600,000 population growth and covering 80% of the total just the state growth. And here's the Pima County, and the population change 980,000. Now just in 2020, and a little over 1 million population, which is 63,000 roughly in the population increase, and covering around just the 8% of the total just the state level growth. Then here's the total housing unit, just similar, and on the right side, and you see here, and the 2.8 million in 2010, and 3 million, little over 3 million in 2020 in state level. Then just as expected, in the Maricopa County covered the main portion, around the 73% growth of the total just the state level. And just Pima County covers around the 12% growth. So here is the occupancy rate. I brought the neighboring counties in the Maricopa County and the Pima County. And the first state level occupancy rate in the years, you see that around just 4% just increased. And the same pattern, just the other in the neighbor, the counties increased in the especially Maricopa County and the Pima County is now in 2020 around 91%. And on the other hand, the Pinal County increased a lot of their just the occupancy rate, but still just around the 85%. On the other hand, the persons per household and compared to just the occupancy rate, and you see that in 2020 mostly decreased. And the state is 2.63, now the 2.58. And comparing to other just the Pinal and the Maricopa counties, and Pima County shows a relatively low in the person per household, and even just a lower in 2020 and the 2.38. So occupancy rate and is high relatively, but the in Pima County, just the family size is relatively getting smaller. Okay, here is the statistics for the Pima County races. And first, you can see here chart in the Hispanic and Latino, and increased 10% since 2010. And on the other hand, the white alone in the decreased around less than 1%, and the other in the races see that just increased, and especially for in the 2 or more races, increased 120%, which might be the outcomes in the generation to generation more just races in the 2+ and categorized. So on the other side, and here you see that in the total just the population, the share by race in the main just the component, and the here in the white alone was 55%, now just around the 51%, 4% decreased in 2020. But the Hispanic and Latino population was 35%, now just increased around the 36%, 1% increase. The races moderately increased, and other than just American Indian, which was 2.4%, now just slightly and dropped, and based on there just the increase a little bit just slow. And here in the jurisdiction population, and so you see that in the mini in the city of Tucson and the balance of Pima County shows a moderate growth. And on the other hand, and the town of Marana and the Sahuarita, and followed by Oro Valley, and shows that in the strong growth. But the South Tucson actually lost around just the 18% of population, and but their magnitude is relatively just small. Here is the population share in 2010 and 2020. So patterns are similar in the city of Tucson, the Pima County, and slightly just dropped there just the population share. On the other hand, the other jurisdictions, the town of Marana and the Oro Valley and the Sahuarita just increased 5%, 4.5%, 3.3%. But the South Tucson and dropped in the 0.6% to just 0.4%. And here's a jurisdictional households. So same pattern, and increased in the 8.7%, the city of Tucson, and 5.4% for the balance of Pima County, and town of Marana, Sahuarita, Oro Valley just increased a lot. Then the South Tucson and dropped slightly. So here's a jurisdiction in the occupancy rate and persons per household. So interesting portions, moderately just growth pattern just shown here for the occupancy rate, and Pima County level 91%, and but the South Tucson shows the no change and actually slightly decreased. So Sahuarita shows the major and improvement on the occupancy rate. Persons per household, and a similar pattern, and the drop slightly, mostly, but South Tucson shows that a little bit of a significant drop, 2.93 to 2.55. So we found some issues in the tract level and the block level according to our analysis. And we found some just non-zero population in Tucson International Airport area and the State Correctional Facility area, and zero occupied housing units where the positive household population found as well. Then on the other hand, then the household population smaller than number of households, and or just larger than, and I'm sorry, just less than one person per household, or just too large, and the persons per household that we found. Those there are some just the population or just 100% and under 18 years old. So here's just some example in the 4 tract. These 2 tracts are relevant to the Tucson International Airport. You see 3 in the household population and 1 household population. And the first track shows that the vacant housing unit. So there's no housing unit, but the population assigned. And the second one shows that the total housing unit 2, but the household population 1. So which caused the issue and the person's household less than 1. And as well as just the population on the first track shows the 100% under 18 years old. So there was a second, the group in the third and the fourth tract relevant to the our correctional facility. So 31 and the 24 household population found, and the same in the first one shows that in the vacant housing unit and the 100%, and the bottom one shows that the occupied housing unit just the 1, so which caused in the very high just person's household. And the block level, and now just we have around just a little over 16,000 in the blocks in 2020 data sets. And the same pattern in the positive household with the 0 households, positive household population with the 0 household, and then just the positive households with the 0 household population, as well as just per person's household less than 1 or larger than 10 or even more than just 20. The largest person's household was just 48. And also we found around 47 blocks and occupied by just the 100% under 18-year-old population. So here's the timeline, but for those, especially for those issues, we're not sure just if a CQR is the best way to just address it, and because of this is mainly caused by just the differential privacy, but we will just discuss with AOEO and about this, and we'll just think about it, how to just address this issue, hopefully just be fixed in future. And the major just the deadline for January 2022, and we need to just submit the CQR, and then just deadline for CQR is June 30, then hoping to just the following year and fix those issues. And here's the census products and the upcoming census products, and we are now in just the phase of the public use microdata area delineation, and PAC is involved and led by the Arizona State Data Center. And so November will just start in the delineation submission and the 9 days period. So then followed in those most of just these delineations that related to ACS product. So hoping to have just ACS in the December and the January, and including just a 5-year data products. So submission deadline for the PUMA is the January, February, and just hoping to or just finalize for 2020 PUMAs. So these are the about the census 2020, and Caroline will just discuss about differential privacy. I'll hand over to the control to Caroline. Okay, so Caroline, would you try that?
Okay. I think the connection probably slow. He is not responding.
Yeah,
okay.
Maybe you can just close in your video.
Okay.
If your internet's not okay, I can.
Okay, I think I get the control now. Yeah.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Long time no see. It's good to see you guys. This presentation is actually a follow-up of what I presented in November 30, the last PopTech meeting. And I basically kind of explained what was the differential policy and what the result for the first several demo data set. And so right now I'm continue to show you more result of the extract data set. So first of all, this I will give you the introduction of what is the differential policy and the timeline and what we have done and what the impact of the region for Pima County, and the conclusion and what we have done for the differential policy. This is actually as a follow-up. I think back in November 30 to 2020 when I present the differential policy, I already mentioned that Title 13 is from is bound the Census Bureau to protect the individual privacy. So all the individual information should not be disclosed to anyone. However, because of the supercomputer, the technology, and a lot of public, a lot of people, they can harvest the information from the Census Bureau report. So that makes Census Bureau aware of the problem. And so that's why they decide to find a method to try to increase the privacy. So that's why it come up last several years, they have this design for defensive privacy algorithm. Basically, is to input some noise and scramble the people move from one geography to another geography. Maybe this group of people is supposed to be track number 1 and make it become track number 2, and moving the people around and change some of those characteristics like the race, age, that kind of information. They just scramble them. And so we want to show you that what is the defensive privacy. Basically, we move the people from one place to another place. And generally, if it is larger geography, it is not really can tell the difference if it is Czech or large jurisdiction or county level. And it probably is just very small difference usually. But once you get down to smaller group, a block group, or block or small towns with small jurisdiction, only 20 people in the whole jurisdiction, and that will be seeing that the problem, because a smaller population is a lot more sensitive to the noise. For when you scramble the number, put extra 5 people in, or you deduct extra 5 people, then it really make the big difference for the percentage for the population change. Okay, so the basic of the concept of defensive privacy is to put a number, the calculation of privacy loss budget. The privacy loss budget, the calculation, actually, it is a trade-off of privacy and the accuracy. The larger number, that means a higher accuracy. The number can be infinitive, as large as you can. And if you have a really large number of privacy loss budget, that means you have a high accuracy, but you may be not much privacy. But at the same time, it's opposite. If you have the number is 0, that means absolute privacy, but absolute no accuracy is useless. You can't do absolutely wrong. So that means the trade-off is what is number, how you assign the budget, the privacy loss budget. So all those 1.5 years, almost 2 years, Census Bureau have released multiple different demo sets to compare with Census 2010, that they are of official census data. So every time they put different privacy loss budget and to kind of experiment, okay, if this number, what they come out? Okay, let's try another number, what they come out? So that's why throughout all these years, and do you see my cursor? Do you, I'm trying to show you my,
yes.
We can see
you see my cursor, right? I just don't need a pointer. Yeah, make sure that you see. So this is what released back in October 2019, this first demo set. And this one, we got to just, what major thing I wanted to emphasize that the budget, the privacy loss budget, they separate out the number for person and the number for household, housing unit. So when they process the data, they process separately. They process the population in one calculation, one set of data, and then they process the housing unit data, the occupied housing unit, vacancy housing unit, all those. It is different budget, different number, and different calculation, and separate. So you see, the blue one is the person, and the red one is it is the housing unit privacy loss budget. So at the very beginning, they put this number and then they change it, and then the last in April, they released two data sets. One is 4.5, another one is 12.2, and this two data set is released in April, so I have not shown to you. Last year, when we did the Pop 10 November Pop 10, I only show you the previous, the oldest set. And so this new data set, the latest one is June 8th, that they decide this is the latest privacy loss budget. And I want to emphasize this PPMF 5, this budget loss, this privacy loss budget is the final number. They nailed down, use this number for the Census 2020. So what you saw, what he should show you, the census data, they have been scrambled, they have been changed from the original census count to adjusted by the privacy loss budget. This number, using this calculation. That's why he should show you all those inconsistent, make no sense issues. Why person per household is half people, 0.5 person per household? Why? Mainly because they scrambled the data, mostly because the defense of privacy changed some of those people from one block to another block, and that's why it creates this kind of problem. But what I'm trying to tell you that anything that you see later on when I show you the analysis using PPMF 5, those budget privacy loss budget, it is applied to Census 2020. So this is the final budget number. That's why it's important to know that. So,
and from our perspective, the number has gotten better in the most recent round. And so the point of this is to demonstrate that the privacy loss was very conservative and added a lot more noise up until very recently, where the data improved, but we still have some concerns. So can you keep moving? We have a lot going.
Yeah, so this is the, we'll tell you that what we have done, PAC did last 1.5 years. So around after the first couple data sets coming out, and we sent a letter to the Census Bureau to express our concern about defensive privacy, because it's really bad. The numbers is really scrambled. And then later on, we also sent another analysis in April 2020. We sent them a letter to show our analysis in block level, because PAC use a lot of block data for analysis, for modeling, for planning. So block level is important for PAC. And we express our concern and we show them our analysis for how the data for accuracy, for statistic analysis. And then later on in November, we actually have a discussion with AOEO about our concern, and also we show you during the Pop 10 November 30. Then the newer data set come on in April. The April PPMF 4, they come out this better, larger privacy loss budget. And we did some analysis, and of course, it's significantly better improved. And Census Bureau asked the public to give them the review for this new data set PPMF 4. And we sent them a letter in May 28, 2021, and expressed our analysis. And also, we're still concerned about the block level, that some of those housing unit analysis actually still not quite good. And also our concern about the jurisdiction population. Then in June, possible that they after get our review, our comment, and seems like they come up lot better number for PPMF5. Okay, so this is the first. I have done a lot of analysis last 1.5 years for all different data sets. And what I'm showing you right here is the jurisdiction for each jurisdiction. This FF1 is the Census 2010 data, the official census count. And this is the all different data set throughout 1.5 years using the Census 2010 data and scramble them with the privacy loss budget and come up different set of demo. And you can tell how the numbers being changed for each jurisdiction. And mostly you can tell particular Tucson and Pima County have been quite different compared to Summary File 1. And this is the table to show what's the difference compared to Summary File 1, Census 2010 data. And you can see Tucson and the Pima County balance basically is a swap. You lost 1,000 people to Tucson and Pima County gained about 1,000 until PPMF5, when they put a very high privacy loss budget, and it seems like settled a lot better compared to the previous set that you lost 1,200 people in Tucson and gained 1,200 people in Pima County. Okay, this is some statistical analysis, mainly to look at the deviation from the original 2010 census for each category. Like the total population, it's not too bad. It's just
this is the latest the product PPMF5.
Yeah, this is what we see that right here. I'm showing that that is the PPMF5. Sorry. So this is I want to show you the latest one, the PPMF file, and also as I mentioned that in the previous top 10, the housing unit is an invariance. They don't change housing unit, and they don't change the state total, and everything else, the county level, tract level, jurisdiction level, or anything else, they will scramble. They will change it using the privacy loss budget, but only the housing unit. So they always be zero because they don't change. It's invariance. And you can see the population, the household population, how it changed. And you still can see the person per household and occupancy rate still kind of high area. It's a little bit higher with the housing unit because, first of all, the privacy loss budget is smaller number. And also when you have two sets of calculation, so the person per household occupancy rate is not really matched with the population. So there's some conflict between two files, and that's why you come up to very high error and a higher deviation. This is one of the two examples that I show you in previous PopTech meeting, and we just show you the first few data set. And you can see it was really bad, the person per household, and vacant units, they were bad. But throughout the year, and you can see the latest one is a lot better right now. And you can see it is still can improve, but it's not as bad. You can see that this is the number. This is not the statistic analysis. It's just compare the original number. And for vacant unit, the person per household, it is significant improved better than the first few data set when you have several 100% different. This is the second example that we show you in the last PopTech meeting. Also, this is another example that was really bad at the very beginning. And after increased the privacy loss budget, and it has been improved. Okay, we look at some of the comparison between the summary file and all different data set. This is the line that's 45-degree line, that means absolute zero. If it is the point, it's on the line, that means no different. That means the number, the population count in that block, it is the same as census number. You know, each block. We have, almost 20,000 blocks, but there's, I'm looking at only the non-zero blocks. So each block is one census block. And if the block is on the line, that means it's zero deviation. That means exactly the same as census 2010 number. So closer to the line, that means it's less difference. That means closer to the real number, the actual number. So you look at right here, the total population, and the latest one, the PPMF file, the red one, generally it is closer to the line. That means it's less error, less deviation. And the older one, like the PPF one or DHC, those, they actually is more away from the line. That means higher error, more deviation, more variance. This is GQ. We actually found out that GQ has a little bit more higher error than the total population. Mainly the GQ has basically is a smaller population, it's more sensitive to the noise. So when you scramble it and moving the people around, and they have a little bit more problem, particular small blocks, they have a small population. That small population in the block, and they will possibly have more problem, that it becomes zero or right here. This is occupied housing unit and vacant housing unit. And occupied housing unit, not too bad, it's still closer to the line. But once you get to vacant and the small blocks right here, then you start to have a lot more deviation right here. And still better than the old data set. You see those color, the orange one and the green one, they're a lot more scattered out from away from the line. That means it's the higher deviation. Okay, this is the occupancy rate and the person per household, and it still have problem. That means, as what Hinch show you in the Census 2020 data, that is the problem, that it could be, absolutely wrong right here. That is basically is that fully occupied, which is supposed to be not. Or you supposed to have population and it's supposed to be zero occupancy rate, getting to zero, all those. And this is still really scrambled and still really not very ideal. And the person per household, it is actually significantly better than the older data set, and still closer. Is basically, this is the line. This is the line that if you're on the line, is absolutely the same number. And Census 2010, the highest person per house is possibly around 10, 11 person per household. That is the highest ever to all the blocks. But for the data set, it come up to 300, 200, 100, and even PPMF5 is still come to about 50. That is the highest one. You see this one here. That is off also. This is basically is pretty high deviation for this block right here. After we look at the population and housing unit, let's look at the races and ages. Generally, all the larger age races group is not too bad for the deviation, except that the Pacific Islander is a small race group, but they are very, very small. So they're very sensitive to the noise, and that's why it come up to higher deviation. And also the 2+ races is also this smaller population, so that's why it come up to large the variance. So this is the age when we look at the 17 under or 18 above. The reason why I do this one, because that's all I can look at the analysis, because that's how Census will give to us. It's only 2 age group. I couldn't get the every 5 years, that kind of age group. So either under 17 or over 18. So under 17 is smaller population. That's why you can tell the variance, the deviation is higher. The error is a little bit higher because it's basically just compared this age group and this age group is this one. Oh, sorry. Because this age group is generally is a smaller population, but we still kind of like feel that is acceptable. It's not too bad. We look at the we look at compare the PPM F4 1 to 2, which is the privacy loss budget 12.2, which is from the April data set. And then this is June 8th data set, PPM F5. And we can look at that. It is not really improving. the deviation is a little bit higher. That is the way it is. It's just when they scramble it, it is something, some reason, whatever any reason, actually, is it some of those at a higher deviation for certain age group, for some races group. But I can say, generally speaking, the percentage is still low. We look at that very low population, so it is kind of acceptable. Okay, this is also compare the census SF1 and the two data set that I was working on, PPMF4, 1 to 2, and PPMF5. And this is the Hispanic because it's a huge population and not too bad, closer to the line. Black population in the small group, those a little bit problem, but it's okay. It's generally close to the line. This is the American Indian, and same situation, acceptable, except the smaller group is just a little bit off. This is, oh, do I lose it? Okay, it looks like I lost something, but okay. This is, I don't know why. So this is Asian right here. And actually, because the smaller population, you see the scale, it is 60 compared to what the previous slide is 200, 250. So it is actually is not worse than the previous race group. So we're still not bad. Just we talk about small block can be improved. This is the Pacific Islander, and because the population is so small, that's why it looks like scattered around. But actually, it is it can be improved, but it's not that extremely bad. It's just because the population is small. And this is the other ways, yeah, acceptable right here. You can see generally all the small block is just same problem. And then the 2+ races, and it is well skilled. Yeah, you can tell that's really right here in this corner, the small blocks that they have a more deviation, more variance. And this is 70+, 17 and under age group is, yeah, still close to the line. This is 18+. Generally speaking, it's not really bad. Away from not too much error away from the line, the trend line. Okay, so this is the one I tried to explain to you that from the very beginning. May 28th, we sent a letter. This letter is according to Census Bureau. They asked us to give them the review of PPMF4 data set. And so we told them that Tucson and Pima County still have a big swap of population. Tucson lost 1,200 and Pima County gained 1,200. And we also explained out all those inconsistency, all those conflict that how can you be a non-zero household population in zero occupied housing unit, or there's a occupied housing unit in there are multiple occupied housing units in that census block, but no household population in that block. Those are absolutely no make sense, and it happened, and we found multiple blocks have that kind of inconsistent conflict. And we address all those issues, and seems like after they received all those reviews from the public at the end of May, and Census Bureau probably that's after get all those comments and review, and they pump up very high privacy loss budget for June 8 data set. That seems like fix a lot of problem, but not 100% fixed. We still have this kind of conflict in number 2, those inconsistency. This is the table that we got it from AOEO, compare with all other counties in PPMF 5, compare with summary file 1. And seems good that Pima County basically have the same number of people. We didn't lose people in that data set. And as what I mentioned, the whole state will not change. The state total is invariance. It will not change. So if one county lost 10 people, the other county will, some other counties will lose some people to offset that 10 people. So lucky that Pima County did not gain, no loss, so it's fair. So if it is some county that you lost 3 people, then other county have to have gain something, some people to offset to get that trade-off. So what we're going to do is we possible to discuss with AOEO about the CQR. Generally, CQR, it is for in the past, in the previous multiple census in the past, it is for the jurisdiction for the governments to file campaign about the census data that if you think that some error, it is a mistake that Census Bureau made for missing housing unit or allocate the geography wrong, the people supposed to be track number 1, they put in track number 2, or are supposed to be in a jurisdiction 1, and by some reason that is possible that the geography boundary was wrong and make it become jurisdiction 2. And in the past, so anything that you suspect is error, you can file CQR. But right now, this situation is different. This year is different. Is Census Bureau always said that months ago, if you found out something is error, something that does not make sense, but if it is coming from the defensive policy because they scramble the numbers and change the number, and you think that the number is wrong, but if it is because of defensive policy, they will not change it. They always said that months ago. So they will change it only if they make mistake. If Census Bureau that have an error on their side, they will change the census number for you through CQR. But if the number is not make sense, just purely because of defensive policy, they won't change. So something that we're going to discuss with AOEO that what possible can be filed if the error is possible is from defensive policy or actually they make an error. So we will work on that one to see if we can make change for the number that we think is wrong. Okay, so
Caroline,
yeah,
I'm sorry, just because of the time, or just
okay,
spent.
yeah. So I think you see that at the conclusion, we want to tell you that generally we think that all the PPMF 5 is acceptable. Just for the block level generally is acceptable, except that the GQ can be improved and the person per household can be improved and not the noise in some small block groups. So generally, we think that is a lot better, the PPMF 5. And this is some resources that you can go look at it. Some of those newsletter bulletin that Census Bureau to explain about defensive policy. And also, if you want to download the data and do your own analysis, the demo data set is in this website, and you can download on your own. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Caroline. And do you have any questions? Okay, then just for just the next item, Josh. Josh, are you there?
I am, and it helps when I'm unmuted. For the next agenda item, we're going to be looking at redevelopment trend analysis. Eric Kramer is going to give an overview of methodology review, and then Yumi Zhang is going to step through some of the data analysis for this. Eric.
Good afternoon, everybody. I don't know if I can. Okay, there we go. Little delay there. So I'm going to talk about redevelopment as sort of the methodology of redevelopment for our new land use model. So PAG is gearing up for a new land use model called Urban Sim, which takes like any land use model, takes a regional forecast of population and employment, but it does it something different. It simulates the impacts of that change at a micro scale, that of households and individual employers, and how in turn the built environment, the forecasted built environment changes through the interactions of agents' decisions of households where they're going to live, employers where they're going to create what jobs, and the interactions of those decisions with real estate market conditions and dynamics, along with policy constraints and incentives. So redevelopment is really, in this context of the model, as an element of the real estate model. There's a submodel, right? And it considers the conditions of existing developed land to be locations of new households, new employers, and the initial step or reason why we're doing this literature review was to understand redevelopment from a data-centric or quantitative perspective, since the land use model is a quantitative application of assumptions and measures and forecasts. So our analysis of the literature, our analytic focus was on a quantitative or data-driven approaches to evaluate and identify land for redevelopment or infill potential. The literature, however, on the whole, is pretty policy and strategy oriented. So it's set within a smart growth framework, and the discussion of how to promote reuse of underutilized land to support objectives such as walkable communities, especially given barriers like NIMBYism or brownfields or financing, and how to deal or mitigate pitfalls such as gentrification. So there's a lot of literature that gets into that domain, but not so much in the quantitative side. But there are some examples. So the basic question is, one of the fundamental questions is, what is infill redevelopment? How is it defined? The literature has really no single or definitive definition. It's rather kind of a loose collection of features. So it happens in developed areas, specifically, or geographically urbanized cities or older suburbs. It includes rehabilitation or reuse of structures, as well as new construction on vacant lots. There's generally increased density associated with redevelopment, and there are kind of preferential characteristics of locations for infill redevelopment. So the neighborhood indicators such as the quality of the transit access or the existing infrastructure. And given the loose working definition of redevelopment, how did the literature identify opportunities for this? Well, typically the literature approaches this from a practitioner's or a planner's perspective, someone who's close to the ground. So there's a lot of case studies of areas with established planning efforts, such as downtowns or older corridors. There are surveys, visual analysis of the properties. Of the data-driven methods to identify that potential are exceptions, but they generally, there's a GIS and database approaches that to filter parcels as potential. That's one approach. There's also statistical analysis as well to predict what would be a potential parcel. But the commonality between those types of approaches is that they do analysis of property assessor data on land and structures. So common to these approaches are quantitative measures to screen for potential sites based on development intensity or the use of space, the economic underutilization, the feasibility of development. But there's really no specific consensus on what measures or threshold values to use. There's lots of variation. Again, but the attributes of the property parcel data are key to these approaches. So typical measures, there are three main ones. Floor area ratio, or FAR, is the built area of a building divided by the parcel area. So it's kind of a proxy for development intensity. So low values would indicate a low intensity, or and higher, you might want, those might be indicators for areas that could be a potential redevelopment locations. ILV, or improvement to land value, is a measure or indicator of economic underutilization. So where the land is worth more than the buildings, that could be a sign of potential for redevelopment or infill development. And then the other one is residual land value, or RLV, which is basically takes a project and determines how would that project be feasible or profitable given the development costs and projected revenues at that location. So that's a very focused one, harder to do, or maybe impossible to do for a regional, on a regional scale. So here are some examples. Again, it's they vary a lot. Again, many of these are coming from sort of case studies, and may not have such a systematic approach, but there are examples in the literature. So this Florida, they combine both the ILV and the FAR. We have Washington, examples in Portland as well. We have Eugene, Oregon, which uses sort of a tiered approach, again combining ILV and FAR. Minneapolis uses so the remaining capacity on the lot, or if it's vacant, no demolitions, and also the residual land value for some of their neighborhoods. All right. So one of the notable statistical studies that we looked at was one that analyzed a decade's worth of parcel data in a Denver neighborhood, and estimated the future growth of structures by developing a regression model of building square footage over time and how it increases. They also predicted the likelihood of parcel redevelopment in the next 10 years with another regression model, logistic regression, which identified variables most likely contributing to a kind of tipping point where a parcel gets redeveloped. And additionally, they found a high correlation between ILV and the FAR variables. So I will talk about a little bit. We wanted to look at our own assessor data to see the potential for that to be used either as a filtering mechanism or as in a statistical type model. We haven't really determined which would be best or possible, but we had to take a look at the in detail. So it is, let's see. So the tax data is extensive. There are 19 data sets in any year. The attributes of both, it has attributes of both residential and commercial properties. They have building square footage, the construction year, full cash value of the assessor, and land area. Commercial parcels are the only ones that have the assessed land value. So that's one limitation for the ILV type indicator. But the data showed a potential for FAR as an indicator, the ILV as commercial, for commercial properties. RLV would require more data, and it's difficult to acquire, especially for large scale analysis. Another thing would be the built out capacity. That would require a little more interpretation with the future land use, but we do have some measures that from the RMAP process that we could use there. There's some issues with the data. There's some inconsistencies between the GIS data and the tax data, so there's typically a lag in coverage sometimes. There are parcel splits and merges. They're very common, but they can distort the indicators. So we try to minimize that. And also the land value assessments are missing. Okay, we're missing for residential parcels, but also for commercial assessments, they're not always current. So that's another thing to be aware of. And the process that we used to prepare this data was involved creating snapshots of the 2011 and 2021 tax tables along with the GIS parcels. And to simplify the land use, we categorized the Department of Revenue codes into four major categories: residential, commercial, vacant, and other, which would include government and agricultural lands. Building square footage for each parcel was summarized from the underlying data, and we used a GIS spatial overlay to match the 2011 to 2021 parcels. And let's see. In addition, we collected examples of known infills redevelopment projects that were completed during that 10-year period, just for reference. And that we've been exploring that, and Yoon-Mi will give a summary of what has been done as far as the analysis of those variables regionally. Take it away, Yoon-Mi.
Okay, thank you. I will just hand over to just Yoon-Mi, and just in case, and if you, Crystal, are you there still? If not, maybe Yoon-Mi, and in case just because I may just leave a little early, I'm sorry.
I'm here.
Eric, please just stop using it, and maybe I can leave a little early, and so I'm sorry about that. And in case you just you may just present all the way down, and then just if there's anything, and please just remain and just your presentation, and Josh will just help. Okay, I will just hand over to the presentation to Yumi.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Yumi Zhang. So I'm, just a second. So I'm going to present the trend analysis of land redevelopment. So here are the contents of my presentation. So first, the definition of variables, and then I'm going to present the land redevelopment from 2012 to 2021. Next, I'm going to discuss about the redevelopment and building age. Also, I analyze on the redevelopment associated with the land floor area ratio. Lastly, I will examine the redevelopment with improvement to land value ratio. So here are the variables for this trend analysis. As Eric mentioned earlier, the original data is from Assessor's Office, and FAR and ILB are calculated one using Assessor's data. And year built is the original construction year, and effective year built is the adjusted year where any subsequent new construction, redevelopment, or renovation was completed. And redevelopment indicator variable is an integer variable such as 1 or 0. And it will be 1 when new construction or rehabilitation of existing developments was occurred. And we have land full cash value data and full cash value of developments data. And total full cash value is sum of land full cash value and full cash value of development. And FAR means the floor area ratio, the ratio of buildings to total land area. And ILB is improvement to land value ratio, and it is computed by the price of developments divided by the land price. And for identifying the redeveloped structures on a parcel, a redevelopment indicator variable was created. And it is an integer variable, as I mentioned, which means 0 or 1, we can see. And 1 represents a parcel with redevelopment. And to get 1, there should be changes in square footage of developments between 2012 and 2021. And effective year built should be between 2012 and 2021. Also, there are some parcels having demolition records with the redevelopment, and those parcels are also identified. Here are the special charts comparing existing developments and structures to be redeveloped between 2012 and 2021. So residential developments is in green, and commercial buildings is in blue and yellow. That is for other type structure. And the size of bubble here is weighted by the total square footage of each parcel. So you can see some bigger bubbles here and there for representing larger structure in terms of square footage. And there are more bubbles on the left here compared to the chart on the right, because it is for all existing developments in 2011. And this chart is a subset of this existing development. So you can see special distribution of structures to be redeveloped between 2012 and 2021. And it shows more land redevelopment in the central area, Tucson area, and more residential developments in the suburban area, the green dots. And I'm going to talk about how many percentage of existing developments in 2011 are redeveloped between 2012 and 2021. So there is total 654 million square feet of existing developments, and among them, 10 total square feet of development to be redeveloped was 10 million square feet, and it is 1.6% out of existing development. And in terms of number of parcels, only 0.26% of parcels were redeveloped later, and the total net increase in square feet of redeveloped structures was 4 million square feet. And further, I analyze the total square footage of the existing developments by building type. And these statistics will be compared to one for structures to be redeveloped in the next slide. And it is for examining what kind of building types were redeveloped compared to existing developments. So in terms of the square footage, the 80% of, the 80% of developments was residential buildings and 60% was commercial structures. And regarding the number of parcels, 96% of developments was residential and only 3% was commercial. So we can expect a larger square footage of commercial buildings compared to the residential buildings. And yeah, these are same statistics for structures to be redeveloped in 2011 regarding total square footage. Residential buildings account for 26% and commercial developments was about 70%, and the share of other type was the 4%. And in terms of number of parcels, above 60% of redeveloped parcels has residential development, and 36% of parcels are for commercial purpose, and the other type shows 1% here. So these statistics look quite different from the statistics in the previous slide. So here, in terms of the square footage, structures to be redeveloped have the lesser share of residential buildings. Here we can see the 26% for redeveloped structures, but for the existing structures, you can see the 80%. And more share of commercial buildings, like for existing structures, we can see 16%. And for redeveloped structures, we can see 60, almost 70%. So we can see lesser share of residential buildings and more share of the commercial buildings for the redeveloped structures. Next, I want to show you how many total square footage by building type was increased by redevelopment compared to existing structures. So here we can see how many square footage of existing development is increased between 2011 and 2021. So the total square footage of existing developments for 2011 is in blue, and 2021 is in orange. And the gray line here, gray line, the chart represents the percent change between the 2011 and 2021. So when you look at the percentage on the bottom, there are 1% increase for residential buildings and 4% increase for commercial developments and 3% increase for other type buildings. And overall, there is 1% increase in 2021 compared to 2011. And next one is for redeveloped structures between 2012 and 2021. So when you look at the percent increase again on the bottom here, it looks quite different from the previous slide, because in the previous slide, on average, there is only 1% increase. But here we can see a 38% increase in 2021. And more specifically by building type, there are a 44% increase for residential building and 37% increase for commercial building. And we can see 33% increase for other type buildings. Next, I also examine how the share of building type was changed after redevelopment in terms of total square footage. And please see this, the Sankey chart on the right. In the Sankey chart, the left side is for 2011 and right side is for 2021, which means after redevelopment. So according to this Sankey chart, most of the commercial and residential and other building type do not change its building type after redevelopment quite much. For example, the measure of these commercial buildings in 2011 were identified as here the commercial building in 2011. So not many changes we can see, and very few of commercial buildings change its type from commercial to other or commercial to residential. So, and also on the left, there are pie chart you can see, and it gives us a similar interpretations regarding the change in building type after redevelopment. So there are not quite many changes regarding the percent share of building type between 2011 and the 2021. And redevelopment and building age. So on the right, it is a similar spatial chart showing the distribution of structures to be redeveloped between 2012 and 2021. But each bubble is indexed by color for representing construction year. And it is not rated by square phrase, meaning that each dot presents one development. So structures built before 1920 is in red here. New buildings are in yellow or light the green. So the chart presents many older buildings in the central area. I think you can see more closely here, downtown area, including the downtown area. And there are relatively new developments in the suburban area, like yellow or the light green. And on the left, you can see two charts. The first one is about how old it is in 2011 for structures to be redeveloped. And the second one is about when was major redevelopment happened before 2011, if there is any. So the most frequent year group is in two charts, could be considered as the major target of redevelopment. So after 2011. And in the first chart, each bar present how many redeveloped structures was originally built in each time. For example, according to the chart, the original construction year of these 285 developments is in between 1960 and 1979. And because it is records of 2011, the developments in that built year group is from 30 to 50 years old, and the group will be the most frequent one, meaning the major target of the redevelopment. And in the second chart, using effective year built, the most frequent group of developments is from 1980 to 1999 with 288 developments. And because the second one used the effective year built, when there is any effective year built records, it indicates there was a redevelopment history before 2011. So according to chart, these 288 developments have a redevelopment history between 1980 and 1999, and it was redeveloped again between 2012 and 2021. And for this group, the year term between old redevelopment and new development is from like 13 years to the 41 years. And average effective year built for developments to be redeveloped was in 1979. And average year built for development to be redeveloped was in 1971. And average effective year built for existing developments was 1983. And average year built for existing development is 1982. So we can see the average effective year built and average effective average year built for developments to be redeveloped. This group are older than one for the existing developments. And because of the time, I'm going to skip this two chart. And next, I'm going to examine the relationship between the redevelopments and floor area ratio. And because of the floor area ratio is calculated as the square footage of developments over the square footage of land, FAR greater than 1 meaning multiple story building, and lower FAR would be the good indicator of underutilized parcel compared to other parcels on the average. So I analyzed the histograms of FAR to answer two questions. The first, how much is the FAR of existing developments different from the FAR of structures to be redeveloped using the snapshot of FAR in 2011? And second, how does the redevelopment impact on the FAR by comparing FAR between 2011 and 2021 for the redeveloped area? And here are snapshots of FAR in 2011. So you can see the two histograms, and these two histograms of FAR are compared to see how much the FAR of structures to be redeveloped is different from the existing developments in 2011. So this first one is for existing developments in 2011, and the second one is for structures to be redeveloped between 2012 and 2021. And please see this, the darker area in both histograms. It shows the highest data frequencies among other FAR bins in the histogram. So when we look at the second histogram here, which is for redeveloped structures at a later time, the first two bins have the highest data frequencies, and for the first histogram, these second and third bins have the highest data records. So when you compare those two histograms, the second histogram has relatively less records from 0.1 to 0.3, relatively less records compared to this first histogram, relatively more records from 0.0 to 0.1 here compared to the first histogram. And it means the buildings to be redeveloped have a relatively less floor area ratio than the existing development in 2011. And mixed up. Sorry. Okay, so here are the descriptive statistics of the FAR by building type. I prepared the number of data records, the mean value, the max value, average value, and median and standard deviation of FAR. In general, the difference between mean value and max value is very high, so that a median value delivers more meaningful information compared to an average value. And the table on the left is for existing development, and table on the right is for redeveloped structures. For existing developments, the median FAR is 0.2 in both 2011 and 2021. And for redeveloped structures, the median FAR was 0.12 in 2011, which is before redevelopment, and it becomes 0.18 in 2021 after redevelopment. So we can see median value shows same interpretation of FAR regarding the impact of redevelopment. So FAR was increased after redevelopment. And I'm going to investigate the redevelopment with the relation to improvement to land value ratio. So ILV is computed as the price of developments divided by land price, and low ILV means low improvement value compared to land value, and high ILV represents high improvement value compared to land value. So because of its definition, ILV is a good measure of determining whether a parcel is underutilized or not. For example, a parcel with a lower ILV would be considered as the underutilized one, and it could be a target of redevelopment. As I did for FIR analysis, I'm going to look over the histograms of ILV to answer the following two questions. First one is, how much is the ILV of existing development different from the ILV of structures to be redeveloped? And secondly, how does redevelopment impact on the ILV? So here are the snapshot of ILV in 2011, and total amount of data for this analysis is reduced because assessor's data does not provide the price of improvement for SFR or condo type building. And but we still can see the number of the data for residential building, and it is for the multifamily building. And there are 41,000 of parcels, and among them 513 parcels have structures to be developed between 2012 and 2021. And here are the snapshots of the ILV in 2011 and descriptive statistics tables. So two histograms and descriptive statistics of ILV are compared to see how much ILV of structures to be redeveloped is different from the existing developments in 2011. So this upper set is for existing development in 2011, and the other set here is for the redeveloped structures between 2012 and 2021. And the median value here, median ILV of existing development is 1.29, and it is greater than the median ILV of structures to be redeveloped, which is 1.07. And on the left, by comparing two histograms between 0 and 1 of ILV, we can see relatively more data records in histograms to be redeveloped here, more record and less record here. So it shows structures to be redeveloped have a lower ILV compared to existing development. And what happened after redevelopment? So I examine on whether redevelopment impact on the ILV or not, and how much does it affect. So ILV of 2011 and ILV of 2021 were compared for redeveloped structures. So the first chart is the histogram of 2011 for structures to be redeveloped, and the second one is of the histogram of ILV for redeveloped buildings in 2021. And when you look at this median value, the median value is increased from 1.07 of 2011 to 3.06 of 2021 after redevelopment. So comparing histograms before and after redevelopment, we can see the number of records between 0 and 2.0 here. When you compare the chart between 0 and 2.0 of ILV, we can see the ILV was the decrease after redevelopments, because more data in bins with lower ILV before redevelopment, and after redevelopment, we can see much smaller number of the records in bins here in lower ILV, and it reflects the increased ILV after redevelopment. So here is the summary. So there are around 10 million square feet of structures to be redeveloped between 2012 and 2021 among 654 million square feet of existing developments in 2011. And the share of redevelopment is 1.6% out of all existing structures in 2011. And the average built year and average effective built year of structures to be redeveloped between 2012 and 2021 were relatively older than one of all existing developments. And the floor area ratio of structures to be redeveloped was lower than FAR of the existing developments. And yeah, after redevelopment, FAR was increased from 0.12 to 0.18. It means that the square footage of structures is increased after redevelopment on the average. And the improvement to land value ratio of structures to be redeveloped was lower than the ILV of existing developments. And redevelopments affect on ILV positively. So the ILV was increased from 1.07 to 3.06 after redevelopment, and it implicates that a building with a lower improvement value would be likely redeveloped compared to a building with a higher improvement value. And here are the next step. I think the Hyunsu already left. So will I continue to?
So yeah, I can jump in on this. With the next steps are we're going to be folding this into, we're going to be looking at migration to Urban Sim in preparation for the next set of population projection, socioeconomic projections that we'll be stepping through in 2023. So that'll be an exercise that will be all of this analysis is priming the pump for, but the migration to Urban Sim is on our near-term horizon. For the redevelopment, we'll be evaluating two models to kind of now look to apply the some of this information that we've articulated and identified in the data. And then we'll be looking at integrating the developed model with an existing or the new land use model. So how do we fold that into this redevelopment methodology into the land use model is going to be that next step. If you can move to the next slide, Yunmi. If you can just hold on control for the next 2 slides. Does anyone have any questions? Well, I want to thank Yunmi and Eric providing the overview or research into the state of the practice and identify, what are the different ways in which we can go and explore this while we while we implemented a redevelopment methodology with the last land use model and the projections. We didn't have the advantage of this broader research and this deeper assessment of time series data with our assessors. So having these thresholds, understanding across these different land use development class types for age and FAR and ILV, that's going to be very helpful. So thank you both for diving into that, and it'll be good to implement it in the upcoming stages. If you could move to the next slide, we can be ready for adjournment. I guess I want to note that we are anticipating a late November, early December meeting where we will be doing our annual review of the AOEO estimates and providing any feedback or recommendations as part of that review process. So just a heads up that will be anticipated beginning of December time frame for that review. And then we also have some other updates to share, but and we'll be moving into some more regularly than an annual meeting cycle here. So appreciate everyone's time today. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Anybody wants to unmute? Any of the voting members want to unmute and make a motion?
Move to adjourn.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Thank you, Steve and Dylan, and everyone have a fabulous day, and we will be in touch. Take care.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks to everybody at PEG. Right.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.